Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Amy. I got to put a little instructions in my phone. All right. So we're going to get started. What I want to say to you is we've been on this topic for a while, and technically we could continue to stay on this topic. Why? Because it's so vast and it's so deep, and people don't just walk out of loneliness. But after a while, you can say the same thing over and over again, but people, will say yes, 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 but nobody wants to step out and walk out of it. So, why this is so important for us today is, I have two things in mind. When I do these group sessions, the group sessions are not just for people to come out of it, but it's also for people to help people to come out of it. So that's why I encourage everyone to come to the group sessions. If you're interested in the Guidepost Ministry, we have these freebie type things. I pray that you get to a point in your life where you'll want more to be able to help God's people, because we all as Christians should want to, but then there's some of us who want to go even further to help people, God's people. And these, as you take your notes, you should be able to refer back to them when the Lord opens up opportunities for you to meet, to see other people. And somebody says certain things or does certain things, and you now can be an agent of change. So I'm hoping that you not only get deliverance from all of this, but that you get equipped with the tools that will help people for the remainder of the year. Because now, September is the time when depression starts heavily in this season. Why? Because people are going back to school. People are deciding to do new things. They're deciding to go and get a degree because what? They're not satisfied. Some people have to go back. Some people don't have to go back. Some people trying to figure out what should I do in September. And there's always like a freshness and a newness that somebody wants to start. And it happens in September and it sputters out. A person can say, "Oh, I want to take classes," and then by October, the second week in October, it's like, bleh. Why? Because they don't want to do the work because they thought that was going to fill the void, and it didn't. So right after that comes the holidays, and then depression starts to sink in, and you need to be equipped for helping these people. So I'm praying that this session, this final session on loneliness, will allow us to move forward. Yes, we can talk about this for 2 years, but will you still be lonely after the 2 years? Will you still not be able to help somebody after the 2 years? So this last PowerPoint today is basically something about what society is saying. And society doesn't really give you any help. They don't really, they don't have the answers. This is not to criticize them. They don't have the answers. And you know what? It's a good thing because then the Bible would not be true. Because the only answer is in Jesus Christ, that relationship with the Lord. They may offer you a pill. They may offer you conversation. They may say, go to a party that you would never go to before, or just go do something. But the Bible talks about giving to others. There's your answer. Giving to others, doing for others. Other than don't go inward. Push outward. And as you do that, you will see that the feelings will begin to lift. Also, that relationship with the Lord. You can't do this without the relationship with the Lord. And today people are more and more bitter and angry than ever. So it's hard to get along looking to people to solve this for you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, and then the other thing 100% is being thankful. We're not thankful people. And so these are some of the things we've talked about. But today I'm doing an article. I'm going to read the article. It may look like a lot of slides, but you know me, my words are very big. And so this particular article is by Psychology Today. So it's a secular article. And it talks about something about childhood trauma that can cause loneliness even as you become an adult. And you'll find that most of us will find out, oh, this is true, because this is in some cases where we've been forsaken. The thing is we want to stay there. We're not going to move from there. So, and that's not a good thing. So as we read the article, I want you to I want you to pay attention to what are you going to do about it. Okay. And the disclaimer is we all feel lonely from time to time. So when it's time to open up the floor, don't say that. What should we do about it? There's a difference between loneliness and the need to be alone sometimes. That's a defense mechanism. You're going to say that because before you say what you need to say, don't say it. We already know that. Okay. You're going to preface what you're saying by saying, well, we all get lonely sometimes. I'm going to say, that's the buzzer you're going to hear because that's pride. That's us trying to cover ourselves. Just say what you need to say. We all do battle here and there. Okay. So let's move forward. There it is. Loneliness, some warning signs, isolation, rejection. You reject people and you feel like they're rejecting you. Avoidance, negative language. All of these are some of the signs that the world says is loneliness. This is what they're learning. All right, go ahead. And I want you to know this is not a Christian article. It's not Christian principles. This is what society is saying among many things. Let's test our skills. That's where we want to go. We want to come out today. And this article is how adult loneliness is linked to childhood trauma, and why victims, because they want you to stay in victim mode, are so prone to unhealthy partnerships. This is as recent as July 2022. All right. The key points in this article is that young adults are said to be twice as likely as older people to experience loneliness. Deep feelings of emptiness may show up as boredom. Hello, stay right there. I'll sit there for a second. Okay, look at the picture. It says what happens in childhood doesn't always stay in childhood. Feelings of loneliness may increase after a narcissistic relationship resulting in further social withdrawal. Now this is their article, so I'm using their words. This is what the article says. So narcissistic, of course, meaning self, meaning turning towards yourself. Everything is about you. All right, go ahead. All right, so I want a reader. If there's someone who doesn't mind reading this morning, can I get a volume tier, as they say in Little Rascals? Yes, go ahead.
I'll read, Overseer, Pastor Pat, I'll read.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Childhood trauma. Childhood trauma can have lifelong consequences, which vary depending on many factors, including the age of the original trauma, whether the trauma was an isolated event or chronic, the presence or absence of parental or primary caregiver support, and the child's natural resiliency and the severity and the duration of the trauma. Emotional wounds. Irrespective of the type of trauma, its consequences may leave long-lasting emotional wounds, which increase the risk of developing what is which increase the risk of developing what is called often called attachment disorder in childhood, and the potential for adult relational trauma, including feelings of deep loneliness. Current statistics on adult loneliness are staggering. More than 58% of US adults consider themselves lonely, even when in a relationship. Young adults are said to be twice as likely as older adults to experience loneliness, with 79% of people between the ages of 18 and 24 claiming they feel lonely. Similarly, 42% of adults ages 18 to 34 say they always feel lonely, compared to only 16% of people 55 years or older. These statistics are representative of averages currently seen in the US. The rates and percentages of people who've experienced significant childhood abuse, abandonment, or neglect are likely to report even higher proportions of loneliness.
Hold a second before you go there. Go back to 2 slides to the statistics. That first, right there. Okay, so it says more than 58% of US adults consider themselves lonely. All right. The young adults are said to be twice as likely as older to experience loneliness. The young adults, there's something that happened with the younger ones that is not happening with the older ones. All right. With 79% of people between the ages of 18 to 24 claiming they feel lonely, look at who's lonely. Similarly, 42% of adults ages 18 to 34 say they always feel lonely, compared to only 16% of my age group or older. Okay, I want you to see that. It's now more the younger ones that are feeling more lonely. And you'll hit the social media situation in a minute. Okay, go ahead. 2 more slides ahead. Go ahead, Pastor.
Emotional, I can't read the top line. All I see is emotional neglect on my screen. Is there something?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Deep feelings of loneliness are commonly reported in histories of childhood emotional neglect. Signs of adult relational trauma and loneliness may include.
Go ahead. Here is the list from emotional neglect. All right. So, what is that black? Well, it is saying difficulty being alone, the constant need for stimulation or something to distract themselves.
Okay.
That's what that first one said.
Okay. Difficulty understanding themselves or their emotional needs. Deep feelings of emptiness that may show up as boredom, feeling worthless or fatally flawed, people pleasing, toxic positivity, inconsistent boundaries, deep feelings of shame or guilt.
Okay, let's start here for a second. Now, where it says difficulty understanding themselves or their emotional needs, because we don't touch it, but we're constantly looking for something to stimulate instead of dealing with it. These feelings can show up as boredom because we're not doing anything about it. Fatally flawed means hopelessly, you just think you're going to die this way. People pleasing, as opposed to being a giver, you're trying to please people, the motive behind it. We're going to talk about a little bit about toxic positivity in this thing. Inconsistent boundaries and deep feelings of why, shame and guilt. Why? Because sometimes it's sexual abuse, emotional abuse, molestation, something that makes us feel shameful or guilty. Go ahead, please.
Loneliness. Because loneliness is linked to feelings of shame and not feeling good enough, adults who experience feelings of chronic loneliness can become quite skilled at masking it and learning to hide it.
All right, here's this piece about the signs of toxic positivity. Being unable to share true feelings, being ashamed for having negative emotions, constantly hiding how you genuinely feel, comparing the situation with someone else who has it worse. Go ahead, Pastor Pat, read that at the bottom.
For example, many who struggle with feelings of loneliness may try to overcompensate their vulnerable feelings with toxic positivity, where "don't worry, be happy" becomes a toxic mantra that momentarily pushes away shame and loneliness. They may become more depressed or feel more socially awkward by having to uphold a social mask, which may exacerbate feelings of loneliness. Others may distract themselves through superficial relationships, self-medicating, or addictive or compulsive behaviors, including excessive video gaming.
Stop right there. Stop right there. You're 50 years old and you're still gaming. It's not that gaming is wrong. People have made careers out of it. I'm not going there, but I am saying excessive video gaming, where you can't function. Now, the person knows as they're doing this, I don't want you to get defensive with the excessive video gaming, but ask me, is it trying to fill something? Okay? Ask me if you own the fact that you're feeling lonely. Before I mentioned this, before this article said it, this is what the article is saying. This is not me. But the bottom line is, you feel lonely. And now when it touches this, now all of a sudden defense mechanism pops up. You know why? Don't touch it. You know why you don't want me to touch it? Because this has been the medication or the thing that is used to distract. Oh, at least I have my imaginary friend. At least I have my pillow. At least I have some. We all grab something. Okay, so I just want you to know they mentioned the video gaming here. I think they're going to go a little further. Go ahead.
For example, a recent study found that feelings of loneliness, depression, anxiety, and boredom are positively correlated with compulsive gaming behaviors in adulthood.
Okay, so the spouse now is in front of the video game. Listen, I'm not killing video games. Please don't say that. You know what's in you, what you're trying to fill when you're doing it all day long and the poor kids didn't eat. And I don't know what's wrong with my husband. He's doing the video game 24/7. Hey, somebody want to play a little game? I play a little word game, but it's not supposed to take over your life. And the reason why it takes over the life is because it's trying to fill something. All right, it's trying to fill something. All right, go ahead. Pass the bat.
Yeah, sorry. These results suggest that the more depressed, lonely, or bored a person feels, the more at risk they are at becoming hyper-focused on gaming as a way of avoiding more vulnerable feelings, which can spiral a person into feeling more lonely. Childhood trauma. Childhood trauma is closely linked to many disorders, including social phobias, anxiety, depression, complex PTSD, and an increased risk for some personality disorders. These red flags may reduce a person's ability to effectively socialize. Some may not want to make friends, while others may be ostracized or bullied, affecting their sense of worth. Children who experience early trauma often have challenges connecting with others, or only feel that they are wanted if they are fixing or helping others. This dynamic often generalizes in adulthood as a trauma response of fawning behavior, where a person ignores and neglects their own needs in order to put others' needs ahead of their own. Another factor that can increase feelings of loneliness is social media. Because social media makes it easier to avoid authentic connection with others, many adults who struggle with feelings of loneliness wind up negatively reinforcing their loneliness by connecting to others on social media. The more we turn to social media to fill a void in connection, the higher the risk of feeling lonelier. Similarly, if we have experienced narcissistic relationships based on love bombing, superficial connection, or emotional avoidance, these can make a trauma survivor less likely to take a chance at another relationship for fear of attracting another toxic situation into their lives. The result is that feelings of loneliness may increase, resulting in further social withdrawal.
All right, now, here it is. Now, you've heard all of this, and you might say to yourself, wow, yes, that's me. Or you want to open up this session by just talking about all this loneliness. Listen now, if you Google it, if you YouTube it, whatever, you're going to hear so many different things. They really don't give you any hope. They'll tell you go to a party. They'll say, go somewhere, do something that you've never done before. that sort of thing. Come out of yourself is really where I guess they're trying to say it. But if you listen to this article, you're not really going to get any answer. Go ahead.
Overcoming loneliness. The quality of our relationships outweighs the quantity when it comes to overcoming feelings of loneliness. By learning how to recognize what we are feeling, we can begin to validate all of our emotional experiences. Solution, please.
That's what I'm asking. Go ahead.
Through better understanding our mind, body, emotion connection, we are educating ourselves on where our unmet emotional needs may be. This in turn can help us fine tune more vulnerable feelings that we may be in the habit of pushing away or trying to avoid, which can include feelings of loneliness.
So, what are they saying? They're saying basically put your hand on where it is. Understand your mind, your emotion, and your body connection. Educate yourselves on this. We have been educating ourselves on this topic for the past few months. But ask me what you've done about it. Ask me what you're doing. Well, what do? I don't know. I don't know. So the thing is that because we're not necessarily looking for solutions, that's what probably is going on. The question is, are you looking for solutions? All right, in God's word, because society will just keep you there. Okay, next slide is what I believe we're going to do some review. And I believe that's what the next slide is. Oh, yes. Look at some of the effects of some of the emotional abuse. It talks about lowering of self-worth and confidence. This is what the world is saying. Feelings of shame, guilt, and fear, and hopelessness and distrust of others, inability to form healthy relationships, depression and anxiety. What are you going to do about it? Take a pill? It's not going to help you. All right, go ahead. So let's talk about what is this article saying. I want you to think about your comments this morning as we open the floor. What is this article saying is the hope for loneliness? Yet we can be so connected to what we've heard today and not what we have learned in the past few months on the topic. How do you help a person with loneliness? You should be able to leave this session today knowing how to do that. Now, when we open up the floor, we're not opening up the floor just for people to say, here's how I can help a person. We're not opening up the floor for just so a person can say, okay, I realize this is what the situation is and here's how I'm going to get help. We're opening up the floor for people to still say that I'm lonely and I've got some information today. I'm lonely and, what can I do about it? There's some that may say that. I'm not cutting you off from that. But many of us, there's actually 27 people on today. Many of us have been here the whole time. What have we gleaned from it? Okay, so let's go over a couple of little things. We're doing very well for time of what we've talked about in the past, and that has to do with relationships. Relationships, because remember, loneliness is isolation. So you're coming out of yourself, and a lot of times we can't come out of ourselves because of how we view our relationships. We talked about relationships and friendships. All right. So we don't want to, you've been through a childhood trauma and you don't just move from, I've been emotionally abused, neglected, rejected, and boom, let's have a relationship. Because that's why we're grabbing the wrong relationships, because we've not dealt with the problem. So I don't want you to say, okay, I'm just going to go find me a relationship, because that's the problem now. We just went to find a relationship as toxic as we are. So let's talk a little bit about the relationships though. Okay, I don't want to forget that. Next slide. We're reviewing a little bit. We talked about our friendship choices. And yes, stop. No, stay, keep recording. Convenience, comfortability. We pick our friendships based on that, based on desire, preference, being associated. And the thing about it is, sometimes if this person is a nice person to get along with, I'll be with this person. If this person is connected to other people, I want to be friends with that person. And the motive is wrong, because what happens now is people are saying, you're saying to yourself that I need to be a part of this. And when that person, in their own toxicity, if you will, is not accepting of you for their own reasons, now you feel like a failure because certain people don't accept you, you know? And so I want you to think about that, because that's why we're lonely, because we only gravitate towards what we think is the best relationships. Go ahead. Motive. What's the motive behind your relationships? Should be love. They should be motivated by agape. You know, friendship, phileo, of course, a lover of people, God assigned relationships, okay, born out of your relationship with the Lord. Do you know that the Lord will send you to a person who is toxic to have a relationship with them, to help them, and to bring some stuff out of you? So sometimes these God ordained relationships are hard. But the bottom line is, it doesn't mean you're not supposed to do it. I'm just going to talk to this person because they get me. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, go ahead. All right. Psalm 68:6, here begins the reading of God's holy word. He sets the solitary in families. He brings out those who are bound into prosperity, but the rebellious dwell in a dry land. Could you be in a place of rebellion? You know, so we're looking at God and pointing our fingers at God and the people around us, but could it be that we're being rebellious? Okay, go ahead. He's doing it. He's putting you in a family. He's putting you in a community. Community is so important. Who am I tied to eternally? Who does the will of God around me? That's the one. Stop running towards people that you think you're supposed to be. Sometimes we do it because they're family members. And I'm telling you, we're miserable for years. My grandmother, and I've said it before, my grandmother, before she passed, I had to go to the family functions. I had to. And they would reject me 24/7. Bottom line is, God was after something in me. He was after something in me. And so when the time came, who do you want me to take counsel from? Who did you want me to spend time with? Where am I supposed to be? Don't go with what you think or what somebody says. And sometimes we try to be safe because they're family members. But the bottom line is, you're not safe unless you're in the will of God. And the Lord would put you in situations where they'll throw you out. Why? Because the Lord is saying, that's not where I want you. Mark 3:33-35. Here begins the reading of God's holy word. But Jesus, he said, he answered, who is my mother? Who is my brother? And he looked around in a circle at those who sat around him and said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God is my mother and my sister and my mother. What am I saying? He puts you in community and he gives you family members. I have my siblings. I love them. But where am I supposed to be? Right here with the community the Lord has placed me. I can hang out with my siblings and they can accept me or reject me, but I'll be bored. I'll be tired. I'll be miserable, and I won't feel any peace or joy. Why? Because that's not where you're supposed to be. We have to recognize God is making the decisions for us, and he puts you where you will bloom and blossom. All right. And so it's not always our family members. Society says it. And if it's so true, how come every family situation doesn't work out? How come it works out? It doesn't work out. A friend of mine, she's very close to her sisters. They're so tight. They have a bond. And I used to say, I wish I was like that with my sister. But my sister is toxic right now. So it doesn't work. So what would I do? Be disappointed? No, the Lord is going to do something with her. But until then, whenever that is, I'm not even going to wait for the day. Where am I supposed to be? And that's where my joy and my peace comes. And people used to call me and say to me from the other side of the world, you know, your family, your family, your family. And that could take you down. But I had to put it to prayer. And the Lord said, you're doing what I said do. Please, God, stop pleasing family and friends and people's opinions that are important to you. Please God. From whom do you take counsel? Who can you lean on? Sometimes we lean on people and they're frail. So you have to say to yourself, you know what? Everybody's looking for community. That's why they had that LGBTQ situation. You know why? Because they'll say it. They want community. Where is your community? You're not safe with family. You're safe with God. And wherever he places you, if he just happens to put you in your family, beautiful. But it doesn't mean that Sarah next to you is supposed to be with her family, or Rebecca or Johnny is supposed to be with his family because you're with yours. That's not the answer. The answer is, what is the Lord saying for me? Because that's where the peace and joy come from. Doesn't come from your friends or doesn't come from your counsel. You can be happy and joyful. Why are you always so happy? I just do what the Lord say do. Well, I don't know what the Lord is saying. That's mean come closer. Come closer. Get his word. And as you feed on his word, you'll begin to hear what he's saying to you. And some of us are so fearful, we just got to hold on to the family member. Please understand, I believe in family. But more than family, I believe in what the Lord is saying. And you can't even be his disciple without forsaking family. You know, what does that mean? God first. That's what that means. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. I think we're just about finished. Okay, the relationship goes awry. I have to say this again. Sometimes we grow apart. Disappointments come, but discouragement is a choice. Unrealistic expectations of the relationship. You want to talk to the person 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they can't breathe. Offense, a shift in purpose. Sometimes the Lord wants you to walk alone for a season. You know, okay, go ahead. Are we toxic? Are you capable of being a friend? Are you a gossip? He who goes about as a slanderer reveals secrets. Therefore, do not associate with one. Don't associate with a hot-tempered person, a person given to anger, or go with a hot-tempered man unless you know the Lord is telling you to do it so you can challenge that person and love them despite themselves. And I have to do that on many occasions too, and someone's had to do it for me. Or you'll learn that person's ways and find a snare for yourself. All right, go ahead. And then the last is this list of, are you given to change? Are you given to change? Do not associate with those who are not given to change, for their calamity will suddenly rise, and who knows the ruin that comes from both of them. The discontented, as a result, they're disloyal. All right, don't lean on those people. Self-indulgent, greedy, foolish. Who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of foolish will suffer harm. So the companion of the person who is self-sufficient, self-serving, and it's all about them, and they don't follow God, they follow their own wisdom. Yes, we have Christians who do that. Go ahead. All right. What kills relationships? Trying to control people. Let the Lord show you. I learned something about myself this week that I have to put to the Lord. And I said, oh my God, this is the kind of person I am. Help me. And I put it before the Lord. And that's what I'm walking through now. Possessiveness, jealousy, envy, betrayal, disloyalty, selfishness, all about self, not opening up. These are some things that as a result of what we've been through in life, that we end up doing. And as Christians, it should not be named among us, but it is. What do? You go after your relationship with the Lord so you can grow and not just help yourself, but be able to help others. I think that's it. I think that's all. Oh yes, relationship with sinners, of course. We talked about it. Evil or bad company. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Don't try to act like it's not true. Don't walk with them without helping them. Keep your stance. Stay your stance. If you're going to hang around with them, they should be seeing you coming and running in the other direction unless they want to be helped. All right. All right. I think that's it. Opening up the floor. We got an hour and 15 minutes. I want you to be free to talk. Turn off the recording. Now, those of you who now you should be putting on your headphones if